Mr. Speaker, I move that the House adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until noon on Monday next for morning hour debate.
MAGA Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, has closed down Congress. Yet again, you just saw right there, Republicans gaveling out there on recess again. And this comes at the same exact time that Democrats have been bombarding the House floor with war powers resolution votes. More Democrats coming forward, even as Republicans keep on blocking Democrats' efforts to put forward war powers resolutions to stop this war in Iran. Republicans keep on blocking it, so MAGA Mike's like, enough. We're just going to go home and we're shutting this down. We'll see everybody on Monday. So I guess, yes, Congress is going on vacation yet again. They'll be back on Monday. You see right there. Let me just go through some of the receipts with you right here. And this comes at the same time that the State Department has just issued their so-called legal justification for the war. And it's horrific. I'm going to read you the words of the State Department. And I just think this is related because the 60-day mark of the War Powers Act of the early 1970s of 1972, that 60 days after military hostilities start, then the commander-in-chief has to go back to Congress no matter what to get approval, which I think Donald Trump is going to unlawfully avoid. You can extend it once to 90 days, but we're about to hit that 60-day mark in the next week or so. I think May 1st is the official 60-day mark. And so you have that. You have the State Department making these unlawful declarations of what their justification for the war is. And MAGA Mike's like, just let's shut down Congress again, which you saw there. Democratic Congresswoman Jaya Paul writes, before the House got shut down, I just introduced a new war powers resolution to end Trump's illegal war in Iran. Congressmember Jared Huffman writes, we're still in the middle of Trump's pointless war in Iran. Prices are soaring, people are dying, and the Republicans are doing nothing to rein in their wannabe dictator. I just introduced another war powers resolution because my progressive colleagues and I will not give up this conflict, will not give up until this conflict's end and Trump is held accountable. And so MAGA Mike's response is shut down the House of Representatives, and that's it. And we'll everybody go home and come back Monday. I mean, MAGA Mike then launches this social media account called Speaker Johnson War Room. It's very weird. He's posting memes like this. He posts this meme, a photo of Donald Trump and Melania, and it says, hallelujah with the pray emoji. And then it says, a new golden age, hallelujah. So as they're shutting down Congress, a new golden age, everybody's feeling hallelujah, a new golden age, everybody. Now, here's the U.S. Department of State legal memo that they claim justifies this war. I'm just going to read from you exactly what the State Department says, just so it's not like, oh, Ben, you're being hyperbolic or you're just saying what it says. Just read it, right? Operation Epic Fury and International Law, and it's written by legal advisor Reed Rubenstein, Office of the Legal Advisor to the State Department. Here's what it says. Critics have argued that the United States combat operations are inconsistent with the United Nations Charter. In truth, the United States, is acting well within recognized contours of international law relating to the use of force in self-defense. This legal assessment is grounded in facts demonstrating Iran's malign aggression over decades, particularly in Iran's escalatory attacks against the United States, Israel, and others in the AGEN for years, which precipitated an international armed conflict that predated U.S. combat operations on February 28th, and that continues to this day. In other words, the justification is the U.S. has been at war with Iran for 47 years, so we didn't actually start a war. There's always been a war taking place. So that's what took place. But guess what they also say? This is from the same legal memo. Epic Fury is only the latest round of an ongoing international armed conflict with Iran. That's how they justify it. It's ongoing, not a new war. As the United States has explained in multiple letters to the United Nations Security Council, including most recently on March 10th, the United States is engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli ally, as well as in the exercise of the United States' own inherent right to self-defense. There it is. It says it right there. It says the U.S. engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli ally. They literally are writing, we did this because of Israel. That the United States put the interests of Israel, to the extent that's even in their interest, which I don't think it is, above the United States. It's in the State Department memo. And then it goes on to say, more fundamentally, if a conflict has not ended, then it must be ongoing as a matter of international law. There's no requirement to continually reassess these principles of necessity and proportionality. In other words, Israel and Iran have always been at war. The United States needs to help Israel, and the United States feels any attack on Israel is an attack of the United States. And because Israel's always been at war with Iran, the U.S. is always at war. So the U.S. didn't start a war. It's just part of a 47-year conflict that's already been ongoing. So at the same time, MAGA Mike is shutting down the House of Representatives. He said, come back on Monday. You heard what they said at the beginning. We also learned, reporting from Ken Klippenstein, that the United States has also ramped up its attacks on Pope Leo XIV by launching spies against Leo XIV and against Leo XIV's inner circle. Trump's war on Pope Leo includes cloak and dagger. And Ken Klippenstein did some great reporting here. He went through some of the hiring tactics lately by the CIA. They hired a bunch of Italian speakers, and Klippenstein traced this and found that these individuals were then heading to the Vatican, and they were there to spy on Pope Leo XIV, and also were engaged in lots of hacking operations against Leo XIV and against the Vatican as part of Donald Trump's attack on Leo XIV. And we know MAGA Mike has been attacking Leo XIV and saying, you don't know what the just war doctrine, even though Leo XIV is an Augustinian friar, the Augustinian and Pope Leo XIV has like 4 of the top degrees in this area, but MAGA Mike lectured Leo XIV on the just war doctrine. And so as MAGA Mike is shutting down Congress, we also learned basically the United States is going to war with Pope Leo XIV, or engaged in a cyber war against Pope Leo XIV. Great work, MAGA. Great work, MAGA. This is what you're doing. And then MAGA Mike, before he left, he held a press conference. And here's what he had to say in the press conference. Let's play it.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. You heard the theme here this morning. You'll hear it all the way through the election cycle. Our politics have now entered a new era. It's called common sense versus crazy. Republicans return to common sense versus Democrats, just madness.
We're also hearing from Marjorie Taylor Greene, former MAGA Republican Congresswoman. Here's what she had to say about everything. One of the moves that Donald Trump didn't go through Congress, but Trump reclassified marijuana because he thinks that we won't all realize the reason that he did that, which he should have done sooner, is to distract us from the catastrophic war. And he's like, okay, I'm going to help my base by reclassifying marijuana. But as Marjorie Taylor Greene writes, reclassifying marijuana does nothing to lower the cost of health insurance premiums. Unaffordable health insurance is the major issue plaguing the majority of Americans. Trump's answer is to give them marijuana. It's honestly pitiful that the Republican Party flat out refuses to tackle one of the biggest problems and ridiculously expensive costs for hardworking Americans. Because of this massive Republican failure, it is paving the way for huge support for health care for all, government-funded, actually taxpayer-funded, and government-controlled health care. Americans will overwhelmingly support it because health insurance has become so unaffordable as a result of Obamacare, she says, and Republicans refuse to fix it, leaving struggling Americans no other choice. I'll just pause there, and I'll fact check her always. But the reality is that Obamacare was a step in the right direction, and it brought health care to 30 million people who were uninsured, who would otherwise die. But the idea was that was the first step, and it was to expand on it and then make things more affordable. But at every step, Republicans tried to kill Obamacare and never had a replacement. So the very purpose of it was Obama would have liked health care for all. He just knew he couldn't pass it in the House. So he passed what he could pass, compromise, negotiation. And the idea was to build on it. But at all times, Republicans wanted to kill it but never put forward their alternative plan. They just said, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, kind of like Donald Trump's catastrophic war in Iran. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. I promise you it's coming. Then she goes on to say, and the question remains, with nearly $40 trillion in federal debt and interest alone skyrocketing over $1 trillion per year as part of the annual budget, how would our government even pay for health care for America? Not to mention Social Security is going to be insolvent in 6 to 7 years. We are soon entering the bankruptcy phase of our nation, and Democrats' answers will be to throw more taxpayer money that we don't have to solve the problems. And Trump's answer is to give them marijuana. They will all be too high to notice they're broke. The Republicans just don't have any answers at all. I mean, where I very much disagree with her is it's easy to find the money. A $1.5 trillion military budget. Why don't we cut that down by $1 trillion? Let's have a $500 billion military budget. We'll still have the biggest military budget in the world. And why don't we focus that military budget on the way modern warfare is actually fought? With drones and with drones and drone interceptors and robotics. Focus on that, not gigantic billion-dollar ships and THAAD and Patriot systems. That doesn't make much sense. So do a $500 billion. I think it should be less, but let's do a $500 billion military budget. We've now saved $1 trillion there. We defund and abolish ICE. I've just saved us $300 billion there. All of Donald Trump's golf trips and White House renovations and all of that stupid stuff we cut out. I saved us close to $1 billion there. I could go through, all of Donald Trump's, other points, but just take ICE and Border Patrol alone and military. I've just now shifted close to $1.5 trillion in savings. Very easy. Very easy. And that could help healthcare. Wow, what a novel concept, right? I mean, think about all the money we've spent in this disastrous war in Iran while Congress refuses to do its Article 1 job. Right? Limitless money. Office of Management and Budget Director showed up and Russ Vought, he said, I don't even know how much money we spent. Maybe $100 billion already. All right, well, we clearly have money to defund hospitals while bombing hospitals in Iran and bombing hospitals in Lebanon and helping Israel bomb hospitals in Gaza. There's clearly money to commit genocide and to do this atrocious acts, which is horrible. It needs to be called out. We can't fund our own hospitals here. We can't fund people's healthcare. Come on. Don't treat us like we're stupid. Marjorie Taylor Greene also says Trump and Bibi's war in Iran is not only deeply depleting our weapon supplies, but it's also opening the way for China to take Taiwan. Also, I hope this does not lead to desperation, resulting in the use of nuclear weapons. This war must end now. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene goes after one of the Republicans' top consultants, a guy named Chris LaCivita. And then she writes, you're a big, fat, rich beyond your wildest dreams, devouring Republican donations and burning the money supporting the most hated elected Republicans like Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, while burning Israel money, trying to defeat America First liberty champion Thomas Massie. So that's what she's saying. And then you have MAGA Republicans on the Hill just covering up for Donald Trump. You've got, before they left and Congress was closed down, MAGA Republican Addison McDowell said the following.
And he demanded a negotiation. And look, let's let him do his thing. He's the best negotiator to ever live. And so I'm excited to see what he can turn out from that. But look, you've got him already saving these people in Iran. They're slaves. And they're going to be murdered. And their lives are being saved because President Trump did what no president could do in 40 years. And so my Democrat colleagues, it doesn't matter what it is. They hate Trump so much. He's broken their brains. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to be no on everything and try to fight him, even when he's very well might be leading us into world peace.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, they will actually now root for the Ayatollah over our own country because they hate Trump so much. So,
Chip Roy from Texas, who was involved in gerrymandering in Texas to create 5 Republican seats, which they probably won't even get anymore because of the Democrat overperformance. I think Democrats can pick off at least 2 of those 5 seats. But, here's what Chip Roy from Texas has to say about Virginia. Play this clip.
Losing is not an option. The Marxists want to destroy this country. And that's what Hakeem Jeffries literally admitted yesterday. So let's go do it. Let's defend the president. Let's get behind the president and let's go deliver. But I'm not blackpilled. James Blair made a good point yesterday. He said we outperformed in Virginia. We got to make sure we outperform the rest of this year. But we need the Virginia Supreme Court to hopefully save us by striking down this ridiculous redistricting map.
All right, we'll be watching all of that.
And here's the message from MAGA Republican Rep Troy Downing before Congress went into recess. Let's play it.
Obviously, you mentioned earlier about the prices, the gas pumps, and all these kind of short-term, economic things. And let me tell you, we all are thinking about that. We're holding that high in our thoughts because people are struggling with that. But there's the bigger issue of what does the world look like with a nuclear-powered terrorist Islamist regime. Right. But a lot of that is temporary, and people. And I'm not discounting the pain at the pump. But even what we've seen has not been as bad as we saw in the previous administration. Right. And this is going to be temporary.
One of the things that President Trump wants as part of this deal is the enriched uranium. Do you anticipate?
There you have it, folks. Utterly humiliating. This is what Congress is doing. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.